Hi everyone, it's Debbie with BookAndBuJo. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been here before. Join me today for my July stats and wrap-up. As always, I will start with the stats and then I'll move over to my chair and we'll talk about all of the books that I read. So let's start with the stats. For July, I read 31 books, 11,439 pages, and I listened to 344 hours of audiobooks. I did have one reread that was mainly just for me and for a readathon prompt that was to do a reread. So I did that, but I didn't count it for any other things. And then for ratings, I did have an average of a 4.0. So I feel like that's gone down a little bit, but it's still 4 stars average rating. I will take it. That is beautiful. And I had a 6 5-stars, a 4 4.5, 13 4 stars, a 4 3.5, 2 3s, a 2.5, and a 2. And that's why it's gone down, because of the 2 and the 2.5 star. We'll talk about those in a bit. The shortest book that I read was A Labyrinth of Honeybees by Heather Fawcett, and that was a little short story mystery, which was really interesting. It had nice gothic vibes. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then the longest book that I read was Remembrance of Things Past, Volume 1 by Marcel Proust, and that was really good. I enjoyed that one as well. I had 3 books in the 1,000 pages, so it wasn't just one book that was that long. So I had Swan's Way, Within a Budding Grove, and I don't remember what the other one is. I know it has started with a G. But yes, they were all good. All right, genres. Let's see, there are 4 classics, 3 contemporary, 9 fantasy, of course, 2 historical, 2 horror, 2 literary fiction, and 6 nonfiction, and 3 sci-fi. Love that. Diversity, so 19 of the books in July had diversity, and 11 had LGBT plus representation. 25 were fiction, 6 nonfiction. All right, back to the top. Formatting. 21 novels, so 75%. 5 novellas and 2 anthologies. And that was, I read 2 of the books out of the anthology. And that's why there was the 2. And let's see. 18 audiobooks. 7 mixture, so between digital and audio or physical and audio, 2 physical, and 4 ebooks. 13 of the books that I read were from my library, 2 from NetGalley, 11 were owned, and 1 borrowed. So that's awesome. 11 owned books checked off my TBR. Love that. For audience, there were 26 of the books were from the adult category, 3 from YA, and 2 new adult. Cover colors, wide variety, but mainly blue and white. A little bit different this time around, with, of course, black, other, and brown as the other highlights there. Okay, I gotta move me over so you can still see what's going on here. Publication and authors. So 18 were new to me and 13 are authors that I have read from before. Publication, 15 indie, 48%. I like that. 15 traditional and 1 self-published. 17 books were standalones and nope, other way around. 17 books were part of a series and 14 were standalones. Publication dates all over the place, but a whole lot from 2026. I did read a lot. So the 2 little short stories that were part of the anthology were both from 2026. My reread was from 2026, and I think I had a couple others. So that was impressive. 5 of those. We got 2025, 2024. A lot from the 2000s mainly are what shows up in the little graph here. And for the map, we've got Greece was from this month, pretty much the US and Greece, and then non-Earth settings. So fantasy worlds or sci-fi worlds as well. And then that's it for the stats. So let's go ahead and move on over and let's talk about each of the books that I read in July. All right, now for the books. And I decided we'll go in star rating order from lowest to highest. See how that goes this time. My 2-star book was Cyber Hunter Origins by D.B. Gooden. And this one is a compilation of the first 4 books in the series. Book 5 comes out later on this year, 2026. And the first book, I would say, was probably closer to a 3-star, maybe even rounded down just a little bit to like 2.75. And so it wasn't too bad. Book 2 for me was probably closer to 1.5, 2-star, right in there. Book 3 was probably 2.5 to 3 stars, so we'll say be generous and say 2.75 stars. And then book 4 again was like straight 2. So overall, this was just a 2-star. It just was not for me. I don't like the seedy underground. I don't like the direction this series took. It was just too dark, and not as in like grimdark or morally gray, just like gross, dark. No, thank you. Yeah, way too much negative sexual content and things like that in this one too, and taking advantage, and it just was not for me. Yeah, so 2 stars for this one. Next was my 2.5-star book, and that was Huntback by Sao Ichigawa. And again, it just wasn't for me. Like there was parts of this book that I loved, I thought were great, so interesting, and I learned quite a bit about some of the different disabilities that are out there that you don't really hear a lot about, and the situations, like what they have to go through each day just to live. And I loved that aspect of it. But this one was so I think I would have preferred this book from more of a nonfiction perspective. But since it was a fiction, some of the other parts of the book, again, just way too much sexual content for me. That was kind of the theme of July. And I didn't pick any of these books knowing that that was going to be in any of the books. So yeah, just a little too spicy and yearning in that direction for me for this one. But the rest of the book I thought was really good. But I mean, the book was like 90 pages, and I feel like that part of it was like half the book. And so that's a lot. Yeah, just the first chapter alone, I was ready to DNF. I'm like, I'm already done with this book. And then the second chapter, we got into more of the actual learning about the disability and more of what's going on in this person's life and things like that. And yeah, so if you go into it knowing there's a lot of that in there, I think I probably would have had a little easier time reading. But for the most part, I just was cringing and just like, and it just gave me the ick. So yeah, and not from the disability side, just from the sexual content side of it, gave me the ick. So there we go. That was my two stars. Let's move into some better 3-star books. And I feel like I should just read the opening line to this because I had already kind of read the other 2. And then I got into this one, and here's how it starts out. No one could say I didn't have enough skin in the game. Foreshadowing here. Not for this job. I inched forward, barely squeezing between 2 breathtakingly naked women. They arrived in vigorous counterpoint to the pounding music, D-cups smacking me full in the face. And I was just like, where is this book going now? Why? Again, I think knowing that there's some spice and things smut in a book, then, you go in expecting some of that, but then you don't. This is like a book about tarot card magic. Why is everyone naked? But anyway, maybe I should tell you what the book is, and that is Wild Magic by Jen Stark. It's the first book in the Immortal Vegas series. And apparently there's vampires in here. I from the first book, there's not a lot with the vampires in there, or at least not specifically saying that there's vampires, or maybe I'm just projecting that in my mind because it says immortal. I don't remember. But anyway, this was an interesting book. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars, and I thought it was interesting. I do have the second book. I own the second one, so I will probably read that one, but not anytime soon. So we have our main character. She basically is for hire to go after like magical objects and things of value that other people want, and she basically steals them and gives them to these people, and then she gets paid for that. So she's kind of, I guess, kind of a little bit of a bounty hunter, but for objects instead of people. And that aspect of the story I enjoyed. I thought it was very interesting. She's got some guy talking to her in her head, and she's trying to figure out exactly who it is. Like, she knows he's there, but yeah. And some of those interactions are a little weird too. I don't know. This book was definitely interesting, but also a little weird. And yeah, there was a lot of spice scenes in here too, and not as in like the actual act of doing things, but a lot of like the naked rubbing and things like that. So 3 stars. Interesting, but not a favorite. The next 3-star read was The 7 Deadly Sins, and this is by James Stalker. And I was reading this specifically for a readathon that wanted a book about one of the 7 deadly sins, and I was like, well, this is perfect. It came up on my feed for YouTube from LibriVox. They had the audiobook, and it's basically reading through a pamphlet, so to speak. I mean, it was like 154 pages, I think, talking about each of the different 7 deadly sins. So a little snippet from each of what the sins are and ways to combat them. And I thought it was interesting. Nothing amazing, but it was intriguing. It was, nonfiction. I liked it. 3 stars. Next up was a 3.5-star read. We're moving up. And that is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. And I didn't realize I actually had this one as an ebook. I realized that, like, I don't know, 3 days into August. But I did borrow this one from my library on audiobook, and so I did read this one, and I did enjoy it. I thought it was interesting. It's fairly short. It's under 300 pages. It's under 250 pages. And it's all about this lady who feels like she is losing who she is, being wrapped up in being a wife and a mother and a friend and a daughter and like all of that kind of stuff. She's losing who she actually is, and she's trying to find how to be herself again in and amongst these things. And I thought it was interesting. 3.5 stars. Next up was another nonfiction. I had a lot of nonfictions in July, which was nice, and that is Organized Simplicity, and the subtitle is The Clutter-Free Approach to Intentional Living, and this is by Tish Oxenreider. And I enjoyed this one. I thought it was interesting. Most of the information I kind of already knew. Some of it was new, as in like, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that could work. And it's more about like the making that mental shift, not necessarily just decluttering your house, but then making that mental shift to keeping it decluttered and keeping it organized and keeping it functioning and not letting it kind of overwhelm you or get out of control, so to speak. And I liked that there were tips and tricks and practical steps that you could take. So like at the end, she would do like a little summary of what the chapter was about and the action steps that you could take, kind of step by step. And there's also recipes in here for homemade cleaning products and things like that, which I thought were great. Some of them I already use, and others I have now added to my repertoire. So I would recommend it. It was a quick and easy read, and if you're looking for some more tips and tricks, then you might find 1 or 2 good gems in this one. And that one was also 3.5 stars. Next up was Sophocles 1, part of the Theban plays by Sophocles. And this one is Oedipus the King, Oedipus, also known as Oedipus Rex, Oedipus, Clonus, and Antigone. And I did enjoy them. I've, of course, read Oedipus the King before, and I thought they were interesting. As you know, I'm not a huge reader of plays. I do enjoy the occasional play here and there, and I did enjoy my read through these ones, and 3.5 stars. And luckily I did find, here's another plug for LibriVox. If you have not checked them out, I will leave their YouTube channel linked down below. And they basically do take public domain books and have volunteers that read them to you. And there's no big, huge production value or anything like that on any of them, but they are enjoyable to listen to. And I've liked all of the ones that I've listened to so far, and I've listened to many from them. And they do the plays really well, because I have read a few just from other book clubs along the way in the last couple of years. And they have different people reading for the different characters, so it makes it sound like you're in an actual play and, you know, watching the actual play. And yeah, I would recommend. Next up, my last 3.5 star before we move on to the really good books, and that was The Beach House by Beth Reekles. This is book 1.5 in the Kissing Booth series, and again, it was just adorable. They're fun. They're nothing special, but they are entertaining popcorn reads, palate cleansers, whatever you want to call them. Super cute and yeah, fun. And I did watch all of the movies that they have out for all the books in the series, but I have not read the full series yet. You'll see in the next section of books that I did read the second book. I still have the third book to read, but they are fun, and I would recommend them if you just want something entertaining and something that where you can somewhat shut your brain off. Like, you don't have to think really hard about it. It's not some fantasy world that you have to pay special attention to. You can just have them on in the background while you go about your day cleaning or whatever. And yeah, they're just super fun, and they brought smiles to my face and brightened my mood. So there we go. Now for the 4-star reads. First one is Awakenings, the story of the Kate Chopin revival. And this is actually an essay collection, which I never thought I would say that, hey, I gave 4 stars to an essay collection and enjoyed it. But here we are. And this one is edited by Bernard Kowalski. And again, it's an essay collection by, I want to say 6 or 7 different authors. So there's 12 different authors and 12 different essays in here, and they're broken up into different parts. And it's basically just talking about how they found Kate Chopin and the awakening and how it impacted their life. A lot of these are from the 70s and 80s and 90s, when feminism was just kind of getting going, and how it really changed how the direction that they were going in their life, and thinking, hey, I could be more, I can do more, I can do this, even as a woman in an all-male world at that time. Like in the 1970s and into the 1980s, when women were really starting to be able to kind of step up and have careers and that kind of thing, besides just being a teacher or whatever. And yeah, it was very interesting, and it made me enjoy The Awakening more than if I had just read it on its own. It was definitely more impactful reading this along, kind of, I started this and was like halfway through it before I started The Awakening, and then kind of read alongside with it. And yeah, I actually liked this one more than the actual story. So there we go. Next up, another 4-star read is Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton. And this one is a historical fiction about, it's almost kind of like a memoir, so to speak, the story of a pirate and his journey. But it's not like based on a real person or real events or anything like that, but it was very interesting, and I somehow have the large print edition but that's what I got. I think I got it for $1 at my library, and that's always nice. And yeah, it was very interesting. It's set in Jamaica in the 1600s, and I did enjoy my time with this one. I do like a good historical fiction, and since it's pirates, even better. And in this one, we have a small township, I guess you can say, in the Jamaica area. And we have people kind of vying for wanting to be the top dog, the one who's kind of ruling over everyone. And pirates are supposed to be outlaws at this point. And we have someone that kind of comes into this area that's supposed to be taking kind of a leadership role. And he's like, but there's pirates out there. And of course, the ruler of the area is like, no, those aren't pirates. They help keep out the pirates. But of course, you know, the ruler is getting a kickback from the pirates and taking some bounty from them. And this is when kind of the Spanish had invaded in the area as well. And yeah, it was really intriguing. I thought it read really quickly. Like it was a page turner, so I kept wanting to find out, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And yeah, I found that very interesting. And of course, there's a tiny little bit of romance in there. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Would recommend. 4 stars. And the next 4 stars is Streets of Laredo by Larry McMurtry. This is the second book in the Lonesome Dove series, and this one's a historical Western. So I go from historical pirates to historical Western. And I think I like Lonesome Dove just a little bit better. Now, I do love Captain Call. I mean, Gus was my guy in the first book, but Call's the main guy here in this one. So, and while I do like him, I didn't like him quite as much in this one as I do Gus in the first book. Again, we're on the Texas-Mexico border, and Call is now old. He's in his 70s, and especially for when this book was based, that's old. And he was a former Texas Ranger, and he brought in all the bad guys, and he is called in for one more time to bring in one last bad guy. And yeah, it was very good. I do still really like it, but it did get 4 stars where Lonesome Dove got 5. I mean, it was close to a 4.5, but just 4. Another 4-star read was Going the Distance, book 2 in the Kissing Booth series by Beth Rickles. And again, the series is just so cute. Lee and Elle have been besties since birth, and their moms were best friends. They were both born on the same day, so of course they're besties, and they've been best friends again since birth. And Lee also has an older brother named Noah, and Elle has a younger brother. And the biggest thing is kind of the unspoken rule that Noah's kind of off limits for Elle, just because it's Lee's brother. And let's not mix our friendship with romance in the family. So that's kind of the kissing booth. And they're all in high school together, and Lee and Elle need some kind of thing for the school project, and they come up with a kissing booth. And then for the beach house, that one's book 1.5, they go to Lee and Noah's family's beach house and kind of have fun over the summer for that. And then Going the Distance is when Noah is now moved off to college, and Lee and Elle are both still at high school. And then the third book, I'm assuming, is from the movie anyway, is they're all off at college and doing their thing. Next up was another 4. I debated on this one a little bit. Is it a 4? Is it a 4.5? Is it a 4? Is it a 4.5? I decided it was just a 4-star read. And that is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. And I did really enjoy this one. It was super cozy. It was a lot of fun. And I just loved all of the characters, the found family aspect of it, and the animal companion that's in here, sort of, and the adventures that they go on. And I just did really enjoy that one. There is some miscommunication in here, and I have heard some people not like one of the storylines just because it's not fleshed out enough. Like there's too many questions, like, well, why not this? Why that? And why not this? And so there's some of that in there that brought it a star rating down for them just because of that. It didn't bother me. I didn't actually really notice that or come up with those questions, but It just depends on what you're focused on in the book and what kind of your life experiences are as to what you pick up on. But I thought it was cozy, it was enjoyable, and I really had fun reading it. Next was another nonfiction, and that was another 4-star read, and that is Disability Visibility, put together by Alice Wong. And this one is an anthology of people living with disabilities, and it's their story. So it's from their perspective on how it feels to live in a world where disabilities are sometimes looked down upon, or just kind of like, let's brush this under the rug. I'm going to turn a blind eye to it because I don't want to have to see it, that kind of thing. And I did really enjoy this one. There was 1 or 2 stories with a little too much in, again, that the sexual side for me. But overall, I did really enjoy the different perspectives and learning something about some of the different disabilities out there that I didn't even know existed for some of them, which I love that this book brought those forward. And what they have to go through on a daily basis, some of the horrors that go on, just the bullying and other things like that happen just because people don't understand, which is awful. And yeah, my heart goes out to everyone with a disability that goes through some of these awful things that some of these people went through, but then also some of the joys and the wonders and the beauty that happens through disabilities as well. And next was Remembrance of Things Past by Marcel Proust. And the one that I have had Swan's Way, Within a Budding Grove, and Guermantes Way. And I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I was thinking this was going to be way over my head. It was going to be super hard to read. Just some of the things that I'd heard about Marcel Proust, like it's really hard to read, like James Joyce kind of thing and all of that. And I was pleasantly surprised. I thoroughly enjoyed each of the books. The first one, Swan's Way, to me had the feel of like David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, or even maybe a little bit Great Expectations, just not the content, but just the feel of those stories, like the writing. It was super easy to read. I wasn't confused about anything, and I just really enjoyed it. It's, classic historical fiction based in France, and I just thought it was lovely. At the beginning of Swan's Way, I want to say he's like 8, 10, somewhere in there, and we never get a name for our narrator, for who this young boy is, like his first name or anything. And a lot of people will just call him Marcel, and then we just follow him through his life and all the different things that he's gone about and done and listened to, been a fly on a wall for, and things like that. And of course, the first one, Swan's Way, it's Mr. Swan, who is a neighbor that comes in and regularly has meals with them. And then we move into Within a Budding Grove, and he's more, I want to say, along the lines of 14, 15, 16, around there. And then Guermantes Way, then he is now more of an adult. So 16, 17, 18, 19, kind of right in that area. So I'm interested to see what the other volumes, I think there's 7 volumes in total, somewhere in there. Like if it just continues to follow him as he gets older, his 20s, his 30s, his 40s on up. I'm intrigued enough to find out and read more. I also read, as a 4-star, And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, and this one's by Frederick Bachman, and I really enjoyed this one as well. It's just a quick little novella, 96 pages. It was a story that Frederick Bachman wrote more for himself, and it's from the grandfather's perspective and his thoughts on dealing with like Alzheimer's and dementia. And I thought this was going to be really hard to read. Just the subject matter is sometimes really difficult, and it wasn't. It was done in a very nice way, in a care-filled way, and it just kind of bring to light about maybe what some people who have this issue are going through. And then I read My Antonia by Willa Cather, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. This is another historical fiction, kind of out on the plains, the prairie, of the Midwest area. And I thought it was really fun because I think it was Remembrance of Things Past. There was 2 books I read where they talked about the Bohemians moving in next door. And my husband's family is Bohemian, so I just thought that was very fun. And, you don't really hear a lot about Bohemia anymore because it's not really Bohemia anymore. It's just all Czechoslovakia. But it's just kind of fun. I enjoyed that and thought that was kind of fun. And I did like My Antonia. Again, it's more about, living out in the Midwest when people were first coming over. And for how short the book is, I was surprised how much was kind of packed in there, and in a good way. Like, it felt like it was like a 400-page book worth of content, but only like 270 pages that you had to read to get all of it. And My Antonia is based in Nebraska, and most of the people in the area are immigrants from other countries that have come to the United States to escape what was happening in Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia area, and they were coming to America to make their lives better, live the American dream, and all of that, as well as trying to navigate life in America, being an immigrant, and how do you balance your traditions and the way you do things from where you're from with how things are done here and how you can kind of mesh the two together. This is a little bit slower paced book, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Another 4-star read was Pride and Prejudice in Space, and this is by Sybil Nelson. I had so much fun with this one. Again, it's the Pride and Prejudice story, not line by line, and not quite how like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies kind of follows the actual story, scene by scene. This one isn't quite as detailed that way, but it does follow the main scenes and puts its own little spin on it. So Earth is no longer habitable. The humans have gone out into space and found other planets and now cohabitate with the aliens that are on those planets. And it was so much fun. I just it was entertaining. I just had so much fun with this one. It made me smile, it made me laugh. It was super cheesy in spots, and it was fun in other spots, and a little over the top in others, but all in a good way. And I loved it. 4 stars. Would definitely recommend this one. Next, another 4-star read is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, and this is by Benjamin Lear Sanez. And I liked this one too. This was more introspective and had more depth to it than I thought it was going to have. I thought this was going to be, a fun, quirky middle grade, which is definitely not. It's a YA, and it's more along the lines of discovering who you are and coming of age, and it has wonderful LGBTQIA plus representation in it. And yeah, I love all the 80s references because it was set in the 80s, which is one of the reasons I read it. And it has 9 words in the title, another reason I read it for her. He had 3. Also for And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, that one has 10 words in the title, so in case you need that for Herky at 3 as well. But I enjoyed this one. This one had a lot of depth. There was a lot of character building, and there was a lot of situations that were being dealt with in the 80s that are still, probably a lot of it is still dealt with now. Some of it is better than it was, but I think, some of it still has a long way to go, and we could be a whole lot better about treating people like people, no matter what or who they are. So there we go. And then I moved into a horror book and had no idea I was going to get this one. My library was just like, oh no, there's like a 3-week, 6-week wait, something like that. But oh no, you'll get it tomorrow. It's fine. And that is Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle. This is my first Chuck Tingle book, and I loved it. It was so interesting. So we follow Poppy, who is an Instagram influencer in the beauty world, and she is trying to provide well for her daughter. And she finds out that her favorite music artist has passed away, and she is devastated. But she gets a call because she kind of has a side job, not just an influencer. She also retrieves bodies for money. So like she'll go to a medical examiner and basically take the body and then give it to whoever is asking her for it, and then collects the money and goes along her day. Not necessarily the most above board job, but there we go. And she has been hired now to retrieve this celebrity's body. And there's a whole lot of interesting that happens after that. Most I wasn't expecting. Like, I didn't know anything about this book going into it. I just knew people love Chuck Tingle. It was a new release, and I thought it would be fun to read this one. So I, put it on hold at my library, and there we go. But it was so good. Very, very interesting. And then the last 4-star for the month is A Labyrinth of Honeybees by Heather Fawcett. This is totally different than the Emily Wilde series or even the Agnes Aubert series. I feel like this one is a little bit darker, a little more gothic feeling, and it was very good. I really enjoyed it. It is 44 pages long, super short. You could read it easily in an afternoon. And it's a time when there are, priests and priestesses of these different gods of the land. So you have like the forest gods, you have the earth gods, you have, that kind of thing, the water gods. And then you have the priests and priestesses that are under them, and then all of the worshipers for each of the different gods. And then of course you have the kings of the land. And they don't want these gods around. Like, only my god. The rest of them we'll just get rid of. So they would kill off the priests and priestesses and make all of the worshipers come worship their god instead. And that's the start of the story. And then, there's an investigator and some interesting things from there. And now we move into the 4.5-star books. We'll start with Becoming by Michelle Obama, and this one is a memoir of her time from when she was a child growing up until she ended up moving into the White House, and then a little bit of time after that, after her husband was no longer president. And I really enjoyed this one. I thought the writing style was super easy to read. It was easy to follow, and I just enjoyed learning more about her. I also read another memoir that was 4.5 stars. I debated on this one, 4.5, 5, 4.5, 5, but I think I finally settled on just 4.5 stars for this one, and that is 100 Rules to Living to 100 by Dick Van Dyke. And I loved this. I love Dick Van Dyke. I have always loved him. I grew up watching him, and I just had so much fun with this one. I learned things I didn't know about him, and I was laughing, and I was chuckling, and just so much fun. And then we move into a couple of cozy fantasies that I read that are also 4.5 stars. And that is The House Switch 3 by Dellam Hawk. And this is the third book in the series, way back here. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know there's more books coming out in the series. It's not just the 3, but I had so much fun with it. And I love this edition. It is just so pretty. And the sprayed edges are so shiny. Always love something shiny. So Finley Ash Owen is a house witch, and he joins in the kitchen of the king and the queen and becomes their house witch. So he takes care of the castle, and he seems like he's just a normal cook, kitchen guy, but then people start wondering, there's something different about Finley Ash Owen. And then, of course, people start trying to spy and catch him and figure out, what's going on here? What really is happening with this guy? And I thoroughly enjoyed it. You'll have to read the first book to find out more, because the third book, I don't want to tell you too much because that would be spoilers and that would not be fun. So 4.5 stars. And then my last 4.5 star was Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. And this is by Rebecca Thorne, the first book in the Tomes and Tea series. And this is another one I was like, is it a 4.5? Is it a 5? Is it a 4.5? Is it a 5? But I landed on 4.5. Again, just had so much fun with this one. It's cozy fantasy. Raina and Kathy wanted to open a bookshop and sell tea and be able to serve tea to all their guests and have a place to call their own. But there's complications. So Reyna is one of the queen's guards, and Chianthe is kind of a little high up in her order of magic users, and it's just not really feasible for them to leave their jobs just to go and open a bookshop and sell tea as well. So this is them trying to figure this out. And it sounds like it might be a little slow and a little boring, but it just isn't. There's so much going on. They find this nice small town, but then there's so much other stuff that's happening in the land and with the kingdom and with this, we'll just call her the evil queen. So with an evil queen, you know there's going to be other stuff going on. But it was all the cozy vibes. And having a book talk about tea and books, I mean, that's right up my alley. And now for the 5-star books. We'll go ahead and start with my reread, which was Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. 5 stars, second time as well. And you asked, didn't I just read this in like April? Yes, I did. And I did say when I finished it, I wanted to immediately reread it because it was so good. And I knew there were going to be little bits and pieces that I missed the first time around, and there was. And I picked up on a lot more the second time, and I loved it just as much. 5 stars all the way. Highly recommend. And I read another short story from the Magic and Mystery collection, and that was The Wednesday Witches Book Club by Sarah Beth Durst, and this was adorable. It was so much fun. So we have a book club of witches that seem to all be turning into cats. They're not quite sure what's happening, who's doing this to them, and they got to get this figured out. And it was so much fun. I loved every second of it. It's like 49 pages long, super quick and easy to read, and so much fun. Another 5-star read was Rites of the Starling by Devney Perry. And this is another one I was like, do 4.5? Do I give it 5? 4.5, 5. And I kind of settled on 5, but now that I've been thinking about it a little bit more, I'm kind of thinking maybe it was a little bit more leans 4.5. So we'll say 4.5, but rounded to a 5. Somewhere in there. I liked it just as much as I liked the first book, as this is the second book in the Shield of Sparrows series, where you live in the land of political marriages and keeping the peace between neighboring kingdoms by marrying off the sons and daughters to each other. And there was a little surprise on this one because the one daughter is like, yeah, it's not me, because my sister has been trained to be the queen of this other country. She knows all about the other kingdom. She knows all about them, their ways, and has been training her whole life for this. And then there was the unexpected twist that happens, and she's got to figure out her footing, and as her life is completely turned upside down. And she finds herself now betrothed to the monster of the other kingdom, who is known pretty much as treacherous killer, kind of scary. And I gotta marry this guy, and I don't know anything about this country. I pretty much just spend my time like swimming and hanging out and getting into mischief. And I feel like that's like an oversimplified version of the book. It's a lot more dark than I make it sound. There's a lot of slow pacing in some parts, and then of course you get some battles and a lot of fast-paced activity that happens. So it's got the nice little ups and downs of a nice fantasy book, where you have a little slow-paced time and some fast-paced time, and then some slow-paced time and then some fast-paced time. And I think it balanced overall. The book is pretty balanced between them. There's also a mystery involved. We have these cursed monsters out there that they're trying to figure out what's happening. Why are these animals cursed, and why are they attacking us all? So they need to solve that mystery while also navigating this new found courtship. All of my 5-star books were pretty much series, like future books in series. So it wasn't like the first book in a series, it was the second, third, sixth book in a series. And the next book is Heartsworn by David Estes. This is the second book in the Forsworn Oath series. And this one, you always follow a fairly large cast of characters, but he's very good about saying, okay, we are now reading from this person's perspective. So it'll say like Ludo And then we go into Ludo's perspective. Bryony, and we go into Bryony's perspective. So he kind of gives you a heads up, we're changing perspectives and we're going to move into the next one. And each chapter or section basically follows just 2, 3, maybe 4 of them at most. But the whole book itself may follow 5, 6, 7, 8 characters. And I love it. For the most part, each of the characters are in each of the books. Maybe 1 or 2 that where you skip a book, but he'll let you know that at the beginning. He'll have like a little author's note and say, hey, sorry, we're not going to have this character in this particular book, but we need to focus on some other stuff before we get back to their perspective, and they will be in the next one. And I appreciate that he does that. So I can tell you my 2 favorite characters. Of course, I just mentioned them, Ludo and Bryony. Definitely my favorite characters of the series so far. Although I do love all of the characters, but I particularly like Ludo and Bryony's perspectives. And luckily they are usually traveling together, so that's helpful. When Ludo was 8, he lost his twin brother and also an eye. So that's rough. So it's just him and his dad, and his brother's gone, and his mom is gone, and the village has been turned to ash. And so he's been on this kind of quest to figure out who is the one that burnt their village down and caused all of this pain and heartache in his life. And he finds out that this is Canaan, and so he is on this quest to be who he needs to be in order to then rid the world of Canaan. So it's somewhat of a revenge story for him, and Bryony as well. They both have a revenge story going on. But there's also a really cool magic system in here. So we have the Forsworn, which are the ones that have God's blood in them, and with that come magical gifts. And it could be telekinesis. You could have, so we have one character, maybe a minor spoiler, not really, but one of the characters with the magic can make themselves kind of into like a porcupine type of thing where they can shoot quills, and it's adorable. She's so cute. But anyway, yeah, so there's some interesting gifts. It's a great magic system. And again, a nice complex world, a high epic fantasy. There's a lot going on. And this is one of those where you can't turn your brain off while you're reading it. You got to pay attention and figure out, like, hey, now I'm in this kingdom, and then this kingdom, and this kingdom's at war with that kingdom, and that kind of thing. But I love it. So good. And again, all the worlds are connected, so it's all the same world. We're just on like different continents of the world between the Fate Marked series, the Kingfall History series, and the Forsworn Oath series. And it sounds like he is now working on a 4th series that interconnects within the same world. And there's always an Easter egg character in each of the books from one of the different worlds. So from Fate Marked, we have a character that is mentioned in Kingfall Histories, as well as in Forsworn Oath. And then from Kingfall Histories, we also have one of those characters in Forsworn Oath. So I'm super excited to see how the next series is going to come about with combining all of these characters together. It's going to be pretty cool, I'm sure, because all 5 books of the Forsworn Oath series are now out, and so now he has the new one that he works on. And one of the things I love about David Estes is he pretty much has most of the books written before he releases them. So it's not like, okay, here's the first book, and now I'm off to write the next one. He's like, I've already got the 2nd book in editing and getting marketing and that, and I'm already writing the 3rd book before the 1st book even comes out, which I think is amazing. So highly recommend, 5 stars all the way. Pretty much any David Estes fantasy book. And then the last 2 books that I read in July. The first one is the final book in a series, and that is Empire of the Dawn, the 3rd book in the Empire of the Vampire series by Jay Kristoff. And I loved this book. The whole series is pretty much a 5-star series for me. I absolutely loved it. I am on the hunt now for the books for my shelves. I mean, if I can find those Illumicrate editions, which are just beautiful, I'm going to try and get those for my shelves, but any version will do for me. Even just a mass market paperback, if they're out there, whatever I can find, I want to get that series for my shelves. So we follow Gabriel de Leon, and he is a silver saint, and basically a member of the Holy Brotherhood that is dedicated to defend the realm and the church from vampires and monsters. And it's gotten to the point where they basically failed and Gabriel is the only one left. And he has now been imprisoned and is being forced pretty much to tell his tale. And so it's kind of Interview with a Vampire style, where we have someone asking Gabriel questions and he's answering them and telling us the story of his life pretty much and the events that led up to his capture. And I loved it. So good. And personally, I thought for me, Interview with a Vampire was a little too slow paced. I don't know if it's even pacing issue. It was a tad on the boring side for me, I guess you could say. Sorry if you love it. I did enjoy it, but it was a little dry. Maybe that's what I was thinking. A little dry. I wanted a little more something in it. But Empire of the Vampire has that little bit of something else that I wanted from Interview with a Vampire. This series had. And Empire of the Dawn had just the twists and reveals and things that happened throughout. I love Jay Kristoff's writing, and I loved this series. 5 stars all the way. The last one that I read was the 6th book in a series, and it is up to publication. There's one more book coming out, and I believe it comes out either later this year or next year. I think it might be next year. And I read Lightbringer, the 6th book in the Red Rising series, and I believe Red God, the final book, comes out in 2027. And I love this series. I love this series so much. Space opera, dystopian, sci-fi. We have a caste system, so you have the different colors. So the reds are kind of the bottom of the barrel. You have like the reds and the pinks and the golds, who are top dogs. The whites, the blues, the grays. That like there's all the colors seem to be accounted for. The greens, like I love that aspect of it. I think it's really interesting. And so Darrow is red. And they are on Mars and they are trying to terraform this planet, and they do a lot of dangerous work inside the planet's core to make it habitable on the surface for people to come and live. Well, little do they know, these Reds, that there are already people living on the planet, and they're just the little worker bees living very short, hard lives so that everybody else can just play and have fun. And some things happen, and Darrow ends up being transformed into a gold, which is the top dogs. And he then goes into the first book. It's kind of like a trial, kind of Hunger Games type of trial with other contestants, I guess you could say. And they're kind of fighting to see who gets into like the more elite schools and jobs and things like that. And they are sending him in hoping that the Reds can then kind of take over and topple this caste system. And love the series. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I know it is definitely not for everyone. Not everybody loves it as much as I do. It's definitely dark, and each book gets darker and darker as you go. I feel like Lightbringer kind of brought a little more light to the story. It wasn't quite as dark as the last couple, the 4th and 5th books. I feel like it lightened up just a hair, which was nice because it was like, okay, I can take a breath now after that last book. Whew. And yeah, it's so good. Such a good series. And that was it. That was all of the books that I read in July. And I would love to find out if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. Did you agree with my star rating, or did you give it a different one? Love to find out. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're not quite sure what to say, but you want to let me know that you are here, leave any kind of red emoji in the comments in honor of Red Rising and Empire of the Vampire series, which I have now completed and caught up on. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other bookish content. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!